all the responsibilities he has. Even at a level of an MCA, how much of policies did you lobby at the devolution level? He keeps on mentioning Singapore. Kuna leader mwenye anaitwa Lincoln. He was a benevolent dictator. Yes. Yeah, but now William Ruto is not a benevolent dictator. He's a dictator that is purely obsessed of greed. Kibaki was a project of Raila Amolo Odinga passing. Then after Kibaki came on, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was supported by Michuki and William Ruto. He was a project of the two. Then sure. William Ruto was supported by the West. Mick Whitman. Alisaidia William Ruto na Gachagua.
Thank you so much. It's another day that the Lord has made, and we are here to do what we do best, to give you the right analysis and to serve it to you in excellence. Today, like any other day, I always source for the best, and I'm having Mark, who is the speaker for the Bunge la Mwananchi, BLM at JEVANJEE. He has done a lot, and I believe that we're going to have a very, very nice conversation. Stay tuned. So, Mark, thank you so much for making time for us today. And I know you are seeing a lot happening from left, right, center. Walk us through, first of all, who is Mark?
To me, I'll just describe Mark as a believer of good governance.
Okay.
And also a passionate civic tutor.
Sure.
I believe in civic education. I believe in kind of maybe making the people at grassroots to be well enlightened in terms of matters that concern them. And then apart from that, also in the next general election of 2027, I'm an aspirant at the MCA level of West.
Okay.
Yes, that is me in a nutshell.
That is great. So we have a lot of things that we'll be delving into, and just trying to look at the happenings on what is happening in our country today. Probably you can be able to weigh on one or two things. I want you to tell us what is happening with Nairobi Hospital.
To me, Nairobi Hospital gives a picture of greed.
Okay.
A good hospital that is being grabbed by someone who's not satisfied.
Okay.
Or whatever in his imagination that wealth is. You see, Nairobi Hospital has been there for the longest period.
Okay.
It has been functional in the previous governments.
It has good systems have been there.
I believe so, actually. But my argument would be, why would a president be concerned about a hospital that is more private? Because actually my argument is just simple. The common mwananchi cannot afford going to Nairobi Hospital. So I believe the president, being the president and being voted of the people,
yes,
and his office is being run by taxpayers' money,
yes,
he should be more concerned about what affects the common mwananchi.
Okay.
And the focus should be more on Kenyatta National Hospital, which affects more people than Nairobi Hospital. You cannot tell me that people within a modest establishment like Kibera, Eastlands, where can afford going to Nairobi Hospital. Nearly 70% of Kenyans. You know, there was data that came out that Kenya is owned by less than 200 people. You can imagine. So those less than 200 people are the ones who visit Nairobi Hospital. Then the millions and millions of lives who get affected by different kind of diseases go to Kenyatta National Hospital. And the worst thing and the most saddening thing is, at some point, an expose came out that Kenyatta National Hospital was struggling to even buy medicine and also have machines that can treat people. So the president was never concerned about Kenyatta National Hospital, but he's more concerned about Nairobi Hospital that does not have an issue of treating its own patients who can afford such kind of treatment. But now Kenyatta National Hospital that affects many modest Kenyans, he's not bothered. So that is an aspect of greed and impunity, and we rebuke that in the highest word.
Okay. So you think like for what is falling this hospital, the executive has an hand in it?
The executive obviously has an hand in it. You know, the worst thing that we have done is, and I also personally regret because I voted for William Ruto in 2022. The most saddening thing is because I believe that he's a person who will be more people-oriented. But now, unfortunately, he's more I don't know, grade oriented, mtu mtaka kila kitu. Unaona, a person mwenye atosheki. And unfortunately ameweka biashara kwa maisha ya wananchi. He's being transactional with Kenyan lives. And that is the worst president we can. William Ruto does not have goodwill to the people of Kenya. He does not have goodwill in running the office of the presidency. He has proved because of his own character that he's very incompetent to handle the office of the presidency. Matters health, matters education. You cannot tell me 50 billion shillings has been lost in SHA. And William Ruto cannot call a crisis meeting to actually address why 50 billion shillings has been lost. Kenyatta National Hospital, it is the best referral hospital in Kenya. But William Ruto can ignore Kenyatta National Hospital that affects millions and millions of lives. If Kenyatta National Hospital, the best referral hospital, can have the worst standards, you can imagine what other hospitals zinapitia nini. So precisely, William Ruto does not have goodwill of running this country. Yes.
What does it take for him to actually be perceived like he has a goodwill, or is this beyond redemption?
The only thing that, because already nearly 4 good years have passed, and we are only remaining with only 1 good year, only 1 year. And to me, you cannot tell me that within 1 year, William Ruto can change this country. To me, I'll just tell you, so that we can perceive you as a good person, just accept the results next year, because we will be voting you out. Uende tu in peace, accept the results. Ukubali tu na uende in peace. We will see, actually, William Ruto will prove to be a patriot if he accepts the results of next year. Because mimi naona akili yake haioni kama yenye kusema kweli issue ya transparency and integrity. I don't think kama William Ruto anaweza accept results. That is the first president in Kenya to set the standard of going for only 1 term. So mimi, for us Kenyans to perceive you as a patriot and as a good person, just kindly accept the results, because next year in the general election we'll be sending you home. The wind in peace.
Okay.
Nothing else.
So for him, his fate is in Sugoi, and there is no any other.
Because let me ask you,
there's no chance of him winning this election.
And I'm not saying this out of biasness, but I'm just saying this out of concern and out of also some aspect of anger, because I'm very disappointed with William Ruto. You can imagine, the only president in Kenya who has overtaxed Kenyans is William Ruto. He has overtaxed Kenyans. This is the first president to ever collect taxes and put a budget of more than 4.2 trillion shillings. He's the first president. There's no other president in Kenya who has ever raised taxes or placed a budget of more than 4 trillion shillings.
Why do you think he's doing all this?
You see, because he has collected all that money, and somehow, some way, he has not used that money to actually serve Kenyans in terms of development or any other. To me, I believe it was out of greed and nothing in terms of serving Kenyans. So to me, William Ruto in 1-1, I just agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is no way that he can be able to redeem himself for the period that is remaining.
You see, the time does not give him a chance to redeem himself. You cannot tell me that within 1 year you'll improve a hospitals that affect millions of Kenyans. You'll build schools within 1 year. I've seen him launching projects. I'll just ask him one question. When you started your work in 2022, you had a manifesto. How comes by then you never implemented that manifesto? How comes in 2022 we never saw you immediately launching projects? But do you know what we saw him launching? We started seeing him launching increase in taxes. He started putting bills or policies that is what he was launching. Kupandisha ushuru, hiyo ndio kitu William Ruto alikuwa na implement. He was launching bills that will increase taxes on Kenyans. So he's a very oppressive president, and for the last 4 good years, to me I would say I've not seen anything good about him. Okay. I've just seen him riding on top of vehicles, doing politics instead of serving Kenyans. Na hiyo ndio very disappointing to our president.
So we are voting him out. That's what you say, and maybe among other people, other part of the population also continue to say that. Who is being voted in?
You see, number one, all we know is number one, we are very sure of who we are not voting for. And I agree with the many who say to Kokadi. For those who are saying tuko kadi, we are all tumeagree wote that we are not going to vote in William Ruto because he's the bad example of how a bad leader is. He's the best example of how a bad leader looks like. But now who we are going to vote in next? Number one, and I agree to many that we already have a criteria on how to choose the right president who will come on next, and therefore even the opposition tutaweka kwa ratili kwamba by the way everyone will be actually passed through the tests litmus paper of good leadership as per the expectation. Actually, the first person who's going to enter that presidency we are going to vote for is anyone who's unlike William Ruto. Someone who does not have greed, someone who at least has a track record, and that is the thing that we're looking for.
For track record, what do you mean? Somebody has built schools, have done what? Because some of these things you need them when you have power.
You see, number one, I believe leadership begins at a very local level. Local level meaning kwamba the smallest point where you can exercise leadership at an elective post. Probably you have been an MCA before. The small thing that you have done, unajua nasemanga charity begins at home. Or kiongozi unamjuanga na hata the small responsibilities he has. Even at a level of an MCA, how much of policies did you lobby at the devolution level? Such kind of things. Hapo tunakuona. Even at the level of an MP, how much did you manage CDF? Hapo tunakuona. Then tunarudi at a Senate, how much of bills or how did you legislate at the Senate? Hiyo peke yake. And then ukuje mpaka kwa governor, how did you manage devolution money? Hapo. And then even if you've never been elected, then in the corporate world, what value did you bring to the society? You see, there are so many things. I don't believe in leadership in any society. Leaders come from nowhere. I believe we come from somewhere. And the beauty about it is, ukiangalia hawa to opposition, you'll see some aspect that they also have a history of where they came from. Matiang'i was a former CS. For 10 good years, he has served under Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. 10 good years. You can actually see certain aspects of good leadership when he was in education. When he was even in ICT, Ministry of ICT, he performed. Akiwa interim leader in lands, minister in lands, and he performed. Okay, people disagree or maybe question how he ran Ministry of Internal Security. But to me, I see a man who had goodwill. Mimi sioni a much major issue, apart from the questionable character that he grabbed the land somewhere. Okay, hiyo party iko, he explained himself, but to me musema, at least for Matiang'i, I can look aside na nimpatie leadership. Because in the whole world, hakunanga mtu mwenye ako 100% perfect. That is the idea. No one is 100% perfect. But the idea about perfection also has a threshold. At least let us see your value on the society. Juu ukiangalia William Ruto, when you question, what is his track record? When he was an MP, did he do anything? Oh, wapi. He came up, became a minister. Did he add any value? Wapi. There's a line, a trajectory of corruption in every level he held. Akakuja kuwa deputy president, a chance where he used, at least amepatiwa a good chance to prove to Kenya that he can be a good leader. For 10 good years, wapi. Then unfortunately, because we were very emotional in 2022 and we were very angry with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga on how they managed the period of Corona. Vile wa Kenya walikuwa affected and 1 million jobs were lost. And Raila and Uhuru never helped that duration on providing good leadership. So because of emotion, we were very emotional, of emotions, we chose William Ruto because he had the right rhetoric. He had a very bad track record, but he had the right rhetoric. In 2022, William Ruto was a hustler versus dynasty. And it made sense to us because of how we perceived Uhuru and Raila. Then we chose him. Then unfortunately, by chance, and people were products of opportunity or chances. William Ruto was given a chance to run this country. Immediately, he took power. What did he start doing?
Remove the levies and
akaanza kupandisha akatoa subsidy, then akapandisha ushuru. Then he ushuru amepandisha. Where has that money he has collected gone? What service has he provided? So we see gradually he has turned out to become a dictator who does not have goodwill. You know, there are those leaders who are benevolent dictators. He keeps on mentioning Singapore. Kuna leader mwenye anaitwa Lincoln. He was a benevolent dictator. Yes. Yeah. But now William Ruto is not a benevolent dictator. He's a dictator that is purely obsessed of greed. And therefore, to me, I have not seen. So track record is the priority. And we look at the small levels of leadership you have held before, either in the private sector or in the public sector. No leader comes from the vacuum. Lazima utoke from mahali, then tutakupatia position. And among in the position, to me, I'll say boldly, sina shida na Kalonzo. He has been the vice president for 5 good years. And being a vice president, okay, he never did anything to solve the economical aspect of this society, because now by then, also being a vice president, hapakuwa na any allocation ya resources zilikuwa naendelea that angefanya to solve the economical aspect. But he was more of a diplomat. And actually, he did the best. He was actually very good in shuttle diplomacy by then as a vice president. So I would actually give a benefit of doubt to Kalonzo, but I'll give an A to Matiang'i. Of all the rest of opposition leaders, maybe I vouch for Matiang'i. But because Matiang'i, and because of our culture in Kenya that elections are very tribal, then unfortunately Matiang'i is disadvantaged because the tribe he comes from is not the majority. That is the most unfortunate thing. It is our reality. It is a sad reality that Kenyans, we are very tribal when we go to election. And because our priority is to remove William Ruto, we will lose all strategies that are available to get the right leadership. And therefore, if it goes the tribal way, then I'll vouch for Kalonzo. And then I put deputy side na kijana mdogo anaitwa Sifuna.
Okay. So, Matiang'i, you believe that can be able to deliver Kenya from where we are, and you're not going to serve in the best interest of still the same dynasties that we were against at some point.
Okay, let me tell you this. When you go, because you mentioned dynasty, when you go to the global politics, do you know that there are so many presidents that were chosen by so-called dynasties or oligarchs of those countries? When you go to Russia, we keep on praising Putin because there are those people who disagree with the West politics. But you know, Putin was placed in the leadership by a former president called Boris Yeltsin. He supported Putin and akamweka. Here in Africa, hapa just in our neighbor, Magufuli, served under that ruling party for more than 20 good years. Then one man called Jakaya Kikwete, a former president also, akamuona na akapatia leadership. It is not good news. Even when you go to the US, Obama supported Biden. And Obama was also supported by dynasties in the US. So there's no, actually, this politics of dynasties it is not unique in Kenya. It's only that we need to direct it in terms of those dynasties that would actually add value to wananchi. If you go to Dubai, it has always been a more of a monarch. So per se, a dynasty.
Yeah,
the families in a role. But among some of those princes, one of the princes from that monarch, aliamua tu aunwe Dubai. And then Dubai is very admirable. Saiwa Kenya wanaenda Dubai. You see, so at the end of the day, I don't see anything unique by Matiang'i or Kalonzo or Sifuna being supported by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Actually, and this one is actually Kenya should remember that we only knew Fred Okengo Matiang'i because of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta giving him a chance. If Uhuru never gave Matiang'i a chance as the minister of ICT, the minister of education, the minister of lands, at a temporary level, the minister of internal security, we would have never known Matiang'i. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is the one who unveiled Matiang'i to us. So from there, okay, probably maybe people knew him, but a majority of Kenyans admired Matiang'i after Uhuru gave him a chance as a CS. So to me, I would say, maybe I don't have an issue with whoever is supporting, as long as, because Matiang'i did well under the presidency of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Si angefanya mbaya basi with the same Uhuru being the president. When Uhuru had all the liberty of controlling power, Matiang'i still performed. Sahi Matiang'i umempatia all the liberty of controlling power, with Uhuru only financing his candidacy. What is the problem about that? So Kenya should stop being petty. Mimi will actually rebuke them and reprimand them. Stop being petty. It is not new for people to be supported by dynasty. The only thing we need to look, what is the intention behind? If the intention is to support, to improve this country, so be it. Yes, in Russia it has happened, in Britain it has happened, in US it has happened, all over the world. If you start mentioning, you realize even Sir Thomas Sankara was supported by another leader, a friend of his. It's only that leader gradually developed, Kampaore developed some aspect of greed. Even Patrice Lumumba in Congo, some of the leaders we celebrate in Africa was supported by this other guy, anaitwanga Mobutu Sese Seko. He was among the people who wenye walimweka and also wakamweka pale juu. So All over the world, there's no leader who comes from nowhere. And let me tell you one thing, everywhere in the world, for you to become a president, you must be a project of someone. In Kenya, ever since 1963, every leader who has taken power and presidency has been a project of someone else. Jomo Kenyatta was a project of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. He was supported and took power. Then when Moi was coming on power, Charles Njonjo took Moi as a project na akamweka pale akiplan vitu zake. Then after that, Raila Amolo Odinga supported Kibaki akijua atapata power. Kibaki was a project of Raila Amolo Odinga per se. Then after Kibaki came on, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was supported by Michuki and William Ruto. He was a project of the two. Then William Ruto was supported by the West. Mick Whitman alisaidia William Ruto na Gachagua wakamweka katupa. Who has not been a project? Stop being petty.
Yeah, sure. Yes. So, do you think that this being projects, must it be a project locally? Some of them might be projects from international interests.
I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with international interest. I won't lie to you, because there is no economy in the world that is isolated. For you to grow, you need to actually integrate and involve yourself in the global market. And therefore, some of these international interests does not actually have a chance in the global market. I'll actually give you a good example. For China under Mao Zedong to grow where it is, it had to open their own market, local market, so that the West can actually invest in their market. And that's where China is where it is. Singapore, South Korea, these are countries that the West have actually invested in them. Japan after the Second World War, the same way America, Britain invested in them. So even Raila used to mention the 5 Asian tigers. Malaysia, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, the other one I don't remember. But there were 5 Asian tigers. All of them, you will see a hand of international hand. And they grew it where it is. And to me, I will always wonder, mimi sijaelewa Africa, live alone Kenya. Africa, we were equally colonized with the hizi nchi zingine in the world were equally colonized by Britain and US. Britain had a hand in Japan, Britain had a hand in South Korea, Britain had in so many other countries globally. How comes hizo nchi zote they were colonized by wazungu prosper? They are doing very well. But in Africa ndo tunashindanga wazungu. It is because also for some of us tuna sabotage ourselves only because of one thing, character. There's a lot of greed in Africa to a point we do not know that we are killing ourselves. Unajua unaiba, and Raila used to give a joke kwamba umbu imeiba nyama mahali, then ikikimbia ikienda kwa maji, inaona shadow yake kwa maji, then inaona na ni shadow yake because and out of ignorance inaona hiyo umbu iko kwa maji iko na nyama kubwa kuli, then inaruka inaacha nyama yenye muuma ikijua inajirukia. Then it kills itself in the womb, and that is how Africans think. We are so myopic on how we see our visions. We are very myopic, by the way, and that is the problem about Africans. If we stop looking at petty things and start looking at posterity, then we'll improve yourself. There's nothing wrong in the Europeans investing in our country. We can actually, because let me now ask you, we do not have the factories or the capacity to even refine the kind of minerals we have. Wewe niambie, acha nikuulize, minerals zinapatikana Kongo, titanium nini? Zinatengeneza nuclear, zinakuletea nuclear weapons, zinatengeneza simu, zinatengeneza. Do Africans have the capacity to manufacture the same? We need the intelligence of Europeans to come and invest in factories here, and then ndio sisi tupate hiyo knowledge. Hata hii science ya kutengeneza building we never had. Tuko naishi kwa misutu. Hawa wazungu ndio walitusaidia, however how much walikuja through colonies. Hizi nguo zenye tunang'ara nayo masuti hao Afrika tunang'aranga masuti. Sisi tulitengeneza. Zote ni wazungu walitupatia such kind of technology. So please, China observed US, and when they allowed them, they actually customized their own way of running the economy. And actually they picked the best from US, and whatever was negative waliacha. Pia sisi wa Africa, let us not stop this blanket condemnation of certain kind of good ideology from the West. We select whatever will be useful to us, then the rest tuachane nazo. Then we customize that best to infuse with our culture, then we improve ourselves the same way China did. So tuache kuwa myopic in views.
Okay, but sometimes you might look at that international interest that seem to derail the country behind, because if at all we are getting support from an international corporation, then let's say for example like Toyota, then it will mean that you guys are curtailed to the extent that you are unable to make your own vehicles. Otherwise you'll be competing with somebody who has sponsored you, and that might not be in good faith for them.
You see, I'll give you a good example. Unaona Dubai? Dubai, the people who have invested in Dubai wengi, Europeans, wazungu wameinvest huko sana. Wakenya ndo juzi because out of greed. Ndio ujue Wakenya vile wanaponga watu wenye wamechanganikiwa. Some of these leaders. Unaiba pesa from your own country and then you go and invest in hotel industry in Dubai instead of even investing in your own country so that the money can circulate. But per se, most of Europeans are the ones who have invested in Dubai. And Dubai is what it is right now because foreigners have invested in that country and it has improved. Now the beauty about it is this. When people add a value in your own land, even though your mali ni ya nje, your people will get opportunities, revenue will be collected within your own country, you will develop projects, infrastructure, good roads, good services, whichever way, security and everything. And you'll collect enough revenue to run your own country. Now in Kenya, sisi tunasema kwamba we do not want international interest. Mimi acha nikuulize, when you produce agriculture and mnataka kuuza, mnaiuza wapi? There is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong on Turkey investing in this country. The bigger picture as a country, and by the way, somehow, someway, we cannot evade global interests because we need the global market to actually grow. So to me, I would say, if Tokyo is coming to put a plantation in Kenya where they can manufacture vehicles, so be it, because Kenyans will get jobs. There was this guy called Amoka Dangote wa Nigeria. Alikuwa amekuja Kenya anataka kuweka an industry of cement. And then unfortunately, because of greed, some politicians wakataka kumu-exploit. Then the guy decided kwenda Tanzania. Then even Samia Suluhu akacheka akasema, by the way, ama ndugu zetu Amerika, wacha sisi tujiche. So the kind of opportunities, let me tell you this. William Ruto, unfortunately, amepata the number of those young people who are unemployed to be very huge. Because sahi imekuja to 16 million, and partly because of him, the bad policies in America does affect wasi. So instead of him restraining international hands to invest in Kenya, angeallow hizo international companies to come and invest in Kenya so that they can reduce the number of unemployment. And but Lae increased taxes, which was very ignorant of him. Hiyo pesa nyange hizo companies ziko zimeinvest hapa, pesa ingeanza kucirculate, na hiyo angekuwa increase the base wage bracket, wage base, because taxes ingekuwa, a lot of young people ingekuwa employed by now, and therefore at the end of the day a lot of numbers of formal employment, and then the informal sector ingekunisa because of the ripple effect of the influx in formal employment. So which means angekuwa ameshapata a reduction of young people not being employed, but because of the wrong advice that he has, and because of lack of goodwill in him, at the end of the day, he's battling something that yeye mwenyewe may create artificially. Not even natural, but artificially, because it is because of his wrong policies. So at the end of the day, we do not have an issue with international interest putting a hand in Kenya, as long as it is bringing value. Not like hii ingine yenye tuko nasikia that yenye World Health Organization inatumia wa Kenya kupima mambo za ugonjwa za virus, ati tunatumika kama guinea pigs. It was a conspiracy, but I do believe to some extent that they were doing it. So to me, I'd rather attract a foreigner who's bringing business to Kenya so that young people and many Kenyans can get opportunities and grow themselves. So the Kenyans work so hard in schools. They learn, they get education, we graduate. Then unaona wanaanza kuapply majob nje. So tunaanza kutuma wa Kenya nje. Inaitwa brain drain. Yeah. And that is the unfortunate thing. So to me, meaning ningesema wacha hizo companies invest in Kenya so that we can get this opportunity to many young people, and so that the government can collect taxes without increasing taxes. Widen to the base ya collect tax, then they will work at peace. And then hiyo pesa yote tengelezeni SGR, tengelezeni nini. William Ruto does not need to kutembea juu ya magari who campaign for nothing. Akisikia hata tap inataka kulaunchiwa mahali anafungwa mpaka tap unnecessary bill kazi ya MCA, aibu zingine hata zifai.
So now looking at the way our economy is moving and the war that we are having in the Middle East, how we are seeing the Strait of Hormuz,
you see,
and how it's affecting us locally here.
To me, I tend to look at issues global politics as an issue of kujionyesha ubabe. The superpower want to affirm themselves. There are those emerging powers that zinataka kutokea in the global world, na wanataka ku control the market, wanataka kuonekana pia all superpowers. It is all about a war of pride. US is fighting against Iran is fighting against Israel because they believe Israel wamekuwa an obstacle maybe to whatever they believe in. At the end of the day, to some extent, it will affect the vulnerable countries. And that is where the problem comes in. Because if you look at the Middle East, mafuta is a very critical factor in production and even in our livelihood. You need transport to move goods from places of production, fear at most. And hii ndio kitu nasema in the most saddest way. You know, if it happens kwamba fuel has been affected in the Middle East, and then we still have Kasongo in power, sijui tutalilia wapi? Because I was sharing a joke at Bunge la Mwananchi. Nasema Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta tried his best to manage corona. In as much as we were disappointed by then, but he tried his best to keep lives, and then apart from that, to ensure that at least wasongepata hustle. Because I remember by then, even he had to remove certain kind of taxes from M-Pesa transaction. Mtu mwenye alikuwa watu mama mboga, mtu wa boda boda, as William Ruto alikuwa na tumoke. Uhuru actually was a true leader wa mama mboga na mtu wa boda boda, because transaction kama ya 100 bob during under Uhuru, nini yako ka charge kalitolewa. Aya, if you are transacting a certain amount of money from M-Pesa to the bank or from the bank to M-Pesa, a certain amount of fee was removed or it was reduced. So at the end of the day, alikuwa na favor the common mwananchi. But now you can imagine with William Ruto, ameshaeka taxes kaa zote, house levy, which is very still illegal, ameka taxes zote in companies. So you can imagine if fuel is increased abroad. Now, for the last 3 good years, William Ruto under his government wamekuwa increase fuel unreasonably, even when hakuna issue yenye inaendelea globally. So saa hii yenye ina affect, does he need any justification to increase tax? My friend atapandisha, utasikia mafuta imetoka from 180 to 300, and that is the most unfortunate thing. So mimi what I'm praying about the global politics, the war that is going on in the Middle East between Iran, Israel, and the US, is that it does not reach to a point where it will affect the vulnerable nations. Because specifically mambo ya mafuta. But if I was to comment, maybe I'll say it is a war of pride. US wants to prove a point, Israel wants to prove a point, Iran has to prove a point. I am actually torn between choosing which side. Sioni ni gani, not unless I go in my sense of belief religiously. Is where to some extent, and people will disagree and be shocked, I'll still protect Israel because of my religion. I'm a Christian. So to me, to some extent, I'll still protect Israel. But when it comes to, now I look at it from a far view of religion, na nitoke from an aspect of religion, nianze kuiangalia. Sasa these are the aspect. To me, to be sincere, naona it is a war of pride. And to me, mimi niko tu hapo nione, because mimi siwezi kudanganya. I don't know how a nuclear looks like.
But you know what, the proliferation, whereby you know what effect it can have in a population.
The effect will be more vulnerable. Do you know, let me know, like you see Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, the countries around that place, Turkey, the countries that are around the Middle East, they are far much developed than Kenya. Actually not than Kenya, than Africa. So to some extent they can survive despite the war. Qatar can still survive despite the war because somehow walikuwa develop, there is stability economically, so it will only affect certain kind of infrastructure. And hata kama yako kama mafuta kata affectiwa, haitaenda sana, utapata bado the people in Dubai can still survive. But let me ask you, in Africa, leave alone Kenya, the Africa as a whole, if mafuta tu igongwe, aya then tuko na share joke that sasa Iran ikasirike seme any place where US say a military base, such a military base,
yes.
Sasa they start pointing in Africa. Where would Kenyans ama where would Africa look for an iron dome? Niambie nchi gani in Africa kuna iron dome? Niambie which country in Africa that iko na nuclear bomb that we can actually challenge ourselves against Iran. Yani Iran, however how much small it is in the American eyes, or maybe the first world countries, because even Iran is not even within the top 15 of the global economies. GDP ya Iran hata haijafika hata top 15. Iko hapo top 20 or top 25, but top 15 bado si kitu inaongelea ati GDP ya trillion, inaongelea maybe 500 600. Hapo ndo place yenye iko average. But now you can imagine,
and still it is under sanction.
It is under sanction. So a GDP of $1 billion, like $100 billion like Kenya. Yes. A GDP of around 50 billion like Tanzania or Uganda. A GDP of around $20 billion kama Rwanda, Kenya, Burundi. Countries that even do not know what it means to even have maybe a dual carriage. Unajua by the expressway, probably Kenya, ndio tuna enjoy. Na vile ilitengenezwa na Uhuru, it was breaking news. We have an expressway. Ukienda Qatar, like every road is an expressway. Ukiingia one route ni expressway. So only one expressway in Kenya. Na huko ni like 100 or 1,000 expressways. That is how far the economy is. So huko hakuna affection. But now in Kenya, in Africa, live around in Kenya, tutajipotelea, tutajificha wapi? If Iran decides to look for us, if they decide even to send one missile in Kenya, how will you protect us?
It will hit the target.
Kama hii bandits na Al-Shabaab wanatusumbua. Sasa hata wanatusumbua tu. Aya kidogo unasikia goons wamekata mapolisi in their place. Goons tu wakati wa political rally. Goons hawana bunduki, only stones. So you can imagine our military with a nuclear. Where will you go? So Africa is a very vulnerable continent. Yes. And unfortunately, we pray that whatever is going on in the global,
they have a political settlement,
whatever is going on in the Middle East does not affect Africa. Wacha wapigane kibuviti zao za kiburi, because it is by choice. America iliattack Iran by choice. Israel iliattack Iran.
You don't think that there was imminent threat?
Imminent threat is because America, okay, the imminent threat is because of their pride. To me, I'll still persist on their pride.
Okay, let's look at it this way, the way Michael Rubio puts it, that these people want to develop a nuclear weapon. So for them to want to develop that, they created a ballistic missile program that will help them in they accumulate that to the extent that nobody can tell them no, because they have every other country at range.
Let me ask you a question. Do you need a nuclear bomb to ensure that there is good education to your people? Do you need it? Do you need a nuclear bomb to ensure that there are good roads to serve your people? Do you need a nuclear bomb?
But they need that nuclear weapon to control and sabotage the West by telling them that you have to...
You see, umeenda to the same place. Umeenda to the argument about pride.
So it's pride.
So it is purely about pride, because me will ask, why does Iran need a nuclear bomb to ensure that you have roads for your people? Why do you need a nuclear bomb to ensure that you have the right education for your people? Why do you need a nuclear bomb to provide a good health system to your people? You don't need it. You only need it because there is a foreign invasion from somewhere you perceive an enemy, because US is an enemy. And then ask the same question. US is battling a lot locally. Right now, because of the war that is going on, they're funding the war in Iran. You would realize kwamba even in terms of the circulation of money within the economy, watu wa US wanapambana sana because a lot of money is being spent there. So to me, you realize kwamba the focus has gone in places of war than maybe in the health system in the US, in the education system in the US, of which it is very unnecessary. To me, any leader who's more king of war, it is a lack of priority. Why would you attack another country? Yet Iran ijaleta threat in US. It is because the US an aspect of pride. That's what I'm saying. It is a war of pride.
You see, from my point, yes, I understand where you're coming with the pride thing. The reason why I continue to maybe say, and I've said this also elsewhere, is because their ideology. Don't you think that they have a certain ideology that is making Israel feel threatened, and even the neighboring countries feel threatened, that if all these people are talking like this, and they don't have a nuclear weapon, if they had a nuclear weapon, and they're not guided by logic, they're only guided by an ideology. Don't you think that those people might...
and that's why, in my previous statement, I said, if I have to judge this war, now when I have to be logical, as you're saying, then I'll involve my religious aspect of me.
That will defend Israel.
Yes, because I'll actually look at Iran as an Islamic. That ideological thing that you're saying, it is more based on religion. That Iran believes religiously that Israel is a country that is creating atrocities to their fellow Islamic people, Gaza and everyone, Palestine. So at the end of the day, Iran is acting as a big brother to their younger brothers who are being oppressed or maybe being destroyed by Israel. So at the end of the day, they will want and wish to protect their brothers. But why would Israel attack Gaza? Why would they? It's because also in the same way, the religious aspect, they believe from your land, back from history, waliachwa with their forefather, Abraham. So to me, there's more of a religious view when I look at the war between Iran and Israel. Iran inabelieve kwamba Israel fake exists because that ideological, see purely ideological, because Israel has their population to receive good health care, to receive good education, as I'm saying. It is just an issue of, by the way, based on our religion or our belief, belief kwamba Israel should not be there. So that divine book that they are reading, there are those who believe kwamba Israel should not be there. And then Israel, because of that religious view and belief in them, wanna believe kwamba these our neighbors should not be settling in this land. Wanafaa kutolewa. And then again wanna believe, and you need to understand, if you are a religious person for the Bible, Persia and Israel wamepigana from back then.
So many years.
So these are kingdoms that are very, when you look at it in a view, from a divine view, kuna some spiritual aspect of it. Wanapigana. So because I don't want to become so much religious of it, probably maybe the next time we invite that friend of yours in the atheist, tutapelekana. Because hapo tutangariana. But yes, because it is not a political aspect. So when you have, and by the way, this one, if you have a religious, you want to put a religious, I'm also good in it. There's a Bible that has, because to me, I'll say this confidently, I'm in politics because of conviction.
Yes, right.
I have a sense of belief that leadership should be geared towards serving the people. And I have a belief kwamba there's an aspect of spirituality that when leaders get into power and they become greedy. To me, I believe there's something more that is pushing William Ruto to being greedy, away from the logical aspect of just being wanting to become rich. There's something big deeper that in a push. So at the end of the day, there's something deeper that is pushing US to fight against Iran. There's something deeper that is pushing Israel to fight against Iran. There's something deeper that is pushing Iran to fight against. And let me tell you this, why would a human being always think about destroying other people? That you're just investing money every day to develop a weapon that will destroy others. Instead of investing money in improving your own lives. Iran should be working so hard to improve the lives of Iranians. US should be working very hard to invest and improve the lives of Americans. The same way with Israel. But every day they are working very hard to invest on weapons so that they can defend themselves from what war?
Sure.
From what war? So when you're trying to put logic in it, to me, it's just at the end of the day, however, how much you argue about it, oh, Iran is looking for nuclear weapons because they believe the US will attack them one day. Look at Kim Jong-un, president of North Korea. Sasa wewe North Korea, to be sincere, because to me, I went and looked at the data. Probably if maybe wameficha, but the data that is there on standard, in a standard data, yani the information that is there, is kwamba North Korea GDP yake haijafikia Kenya. Iko less than $100 billion, surprisingly. But they already have a nuclear weapon. Yani that guy does not prioritize the welfare of his own people. Ame prioritize having a weapon to just fight against US until anaprovoke US and anawaambia, I am ready for war. Ready for war.
Just those things,
just, but you're not ready to fight the poverty that is bedeviling your people. You're not ready to fight that poverty. You're not ready to improve the lives of your people, but you're very ready to fight. You have taken nearly half of your economy or half of the wealth in your economy to invest on a weapon, just one weapon, just to prove a point globally that it can also be a superpower. Where? And yet your people are suffering. Do you know what it means to have a superpower? A superpower, to me, I believe, when your people are happy.
You are a superpower.
You are a superpower.
Absolutely.
And to me, if there is a country I really admire right now, it's only that I don't believe in some of their ideologies, but I really admire them is China. China wamekuwa kievade war precisely and deliberate.
Well, that brings me to the question
every team wanakuanga provoked. wanahepa. Why? Because they have realized it doesn't add any value. While you're in Japan, look at Japan, so at peace, so calm. Their people are not suffering in any way. If there is a country that nearly the whole of the population is middle class, as in Japan, ukienda wase wote wanaishi westi, Halinga, Langata, Kilimani, hakuna Eastlands, Kibera, Badare, hakuna. Ukienda China, nearly a population of more than 100 million. Yani population yenye imeshindana Kenya, more than 100 ni middle class. Middle class, population of around 1.4 billion. 1.4 billion people, a population of more than 100, 200, 300 billion are middle class. That is what is running the economy of China. And in Kenya, wapi? Go to North Korea. Iran ndio hiyo sasa, okay, I would understand Iran because mafuta imewabeba, but why would you keep on focusing on war? US, you will see a population of around 300 million. There are many poor people in America, in as much as Trump is bragging, and US is not the best example of how the developed countries should treat their people. Because their people were very suffering very much in the US. So to me, I would say, why would a human being work so hard to develop weapons to fight another person, to destroy other people? So at the end of the day, it is an issue of pride and ego. Kuna watu tu wanataka kuonyeshana sisi ndio wababe. And that's why I say, the moment it becomes an issue of ego and pride, then there is more of a spiritual aspect in it. It is not just out of logic. You don't, unajua kuna kitu inaitwanga obsession. You become so much obsessed about proving a point, and yet you don't need to prove a point. You already know you're a superpower. What else do you want to prove? So at the end of the day, it's just an aspect of obsession, and that obsession, there is a spiritual aspect of it. So go on and believe, probably ndio hiyo chance dunia inaisha.
So Iran and sitaki tuachie topic kwanza. Iran is a member of BRICS. Why is BRICS not coming into there? Not even to criticize the war. Putin the other time during Women's Day, anakuja tu na celebrate wa mama na.
You see, you
not saying anything about the war.
You also need to understand that war is very transactional and war is very expensive. Being transactional, it is very expensive. Meaning kwamba there are those people who bring war so that they can sell their weapons. Like US has always had a such kind of a history. Now, when you mentioned BRICS, I went and did a small research on BRICS. I realized kwamba all the members of BRICS, none of them fairly economically iko above top 10 in the economy. Kiangalia utapata BRICS iko nini? AI inasimamia nini? So at the end of the day, to me, my assumption would be kwamba to them war is very expensive, and they wouldn't wish to provoke a war that will be very costly to them. Say Brazil wouldn't want to fight US. Well, actually, let me know like you. There is no country in the continent of North America or South America, or even in the Middle America, that would wish to provoke war with US. They wouldn't. It would be very costly. So Brazil ito Asia. Russia has always been there at war with the US. Cold war, but not direct war. So Russia already knows kwamba it will also be very costly. Okay, test you on mambo ya Ukraine, but Russia knows they don't trade to a place where they can lose. And then utoke hapo kuje India. India already knows kwamba economy yao, they need also Europeans to invest in the economy. China the same, they need even the West to invest in the economy. South Africa, sasa kainchi kaka naitwa South Africa in Africa. To be sincere. Do you know Iran inaweza chapa Iran alone, hata US, Iran inaweza fieka South Africa na imalize within a minute. South Africa does not, if nearly 60 or 70, actually 70% of the economy of South Africa is being controlled by Europeans. Those who are there, the Boers or whoever, it is being controlled by Europeans. The black people there do not control the economy there. So how do they start a war that their own people are the ones who have invested in that country? So at the end of the day, it will be very costly even to South Africa. In Africa, South Africa can brag, but what a bragiani, unaona? So at the end of the day, outside Africa, South Africa end up trading. So walijaribu juzi yetu wanapeleka Israel ICC, ati hauna na wewe. Walekota only a few sanctions na US, then they realized, by the way, let us not start a war that we can't finish. So to me, BRICS are more becoming.
I remember that the military base is in Botswana.
Yes. US does not even need, that type of nuclear war. Watume tu one fighter jet. Jutu ya airspace hata wasiangisha ipige tu raundi wasikie tu kelele ya hizo must be F what within 2-30 minutes South Africa watatulia. So to me at the end of the day actually in Africa ukitaka wapige vita economy, you don't need to send a nuclear because utaua wote. Just eka sanction tu moja in Africa umewamaliza, because if our AU African Union is being sponsored by America, African Union, it is being sponsored by sasa sembuse mainchi, and we depend on donor money. That is how worse we are and behind we are as Africa. So to me precisely I would say kwamba BRICS have learned better and they wouldn't want to start a war yenye hawezi maliza. So how wanacheza safe. Therefore wanaacha tu wale mabwenyeji wapigane vitu wanaelewana. So to me Iran has always been there. Iran, there's something deeper in Iran with the war between US and Israel, and it is not purely logical. To me, I believe still it is very spiritual, that there's something that is controlling them to start these wars. You know, the same. But for BRICS, what is safe? Hey, but war is expensive. War is very expensive. Yeah, so to me, US has the liberty of starting war and actually maintaining war, because number one, being the first world economy, a lot of trade in the world, even mafuta in a trade on $1. So somehow they have the liberty of controlling. So at the end of the day, again, a lot of countries in the world would purchase, purchase weapons from the US. So sometimes US start war only to channel out their old weapons, or even to test their new invention of weapons. Probably wanataka test, so how will this work? The third system. Or maybe they want to bring a new idea or a new world order as they believe in. So that you know, as I'm telling you, at the end of the day, it is just a war of pride. Ni mtu tu anataka kujionyesha vile ni fast food. Unaona ngai ile shule ilikuwa nakwambia ni fast food tu. Brain line ukivuta hapo utaona. So that the fast food katika wote is just a war of pride. And as Africans we shouldn't involve ourselves in it because it will be very costly. We do not have the capacity to even engage, and not only engage, even sustain, even that belief of getting to war. It will affect our market because we need donor money to survive. Unfortunately, however, how much we have a lot of windrows. Wazungu ndio wanakujanga kama tourists kutupatia pesa. We channel our products, agricultural products to them, tea to them. Middle East na Turkey wanachukuanga majani chai yetu, our tea, they purchase our tea to the best. So right now, at the end of the day, we should not even involve ourselves. We should know our place. Our place is to grow our economy. Chezeni safe for Africa. Presidents, do not involve yourselves. You're actually supporting a certain enemy or a certain ally. So even if China condemns US, to some extent, it will be assumed that China is supporting Iran. And then, US are people who are very, I would say, insecure to some extent. Being at the top means you're very insecure because they will assume probably a lot of support that Iran, because let me ask you a question. People never believed that Iran is a sustain war to this extent.
Not even myself.
When China speaks or Russia speaks, then US it believes somehow Iran is just not alone. Somehow, maybe probably they're providing some level of support.
Either through
intelligence or maybe through weapons. It's only that US bado haijakuwa certain. And some of these countries wouldn't want to be seen as direct enemies. And probably they're being strategic at the right time. But not because I believe China is fighting an economical war. China would really wish to pass US economically. Bypass US or number one in the global economy. So they would really wish to top in the global economy. So at the end of the day, to me, I assume kwamba China hawezi risk sahi kutoa statement. Wanakuwa very strategic. Wamekuwa given US imekuwa threatened, imekuwa provoked with the Taiwan border. When China says that it wants to take over Taiwan, and then US natuma their military at Taiwan to train with the military of Taiwan. Kidogo tena wanatuma military to train wakati Hong Kong had an issue with China, Britain and US also supporting
Hong Kong. And they took the third system around there.
Again, they will see them around South Korea. So they have been provoking China and China has been evading. So I wouldn't say kwamba China ijaona hizo provocation. And China right now, knowing that even at home, US already has bases. And you need to understand, Japan is a very great ally to China. Haya, wachana na hiyo. India is
China
also
to US.
To China, not to China, to US. Haya, India is also a very great ally to US.
Yes. Yes.
So India is equally
with a population of 900 million.
Actually, it was already around 1B. Over 1B. Population ya India na China zina crossiana. They are at par. So you can imagine even India right now ni number 5 in the global economy. So precisely even they can also sustain war. China ikitaka kuleta kierere, when India and Japan wakiingia wakimerge na US, China will not be able to sustain that because now mnapigwa even from your own border. Unajua,
you see the Guam,
and in as much as also China shares a border with Russia, Russia is the kuingilia hiyo war. So to me, I would assume kwamba, you see, the beauty about US is this: they have been able to manage their continent that no enemy in the global world can infiltrate any of their country that is their neighbor. Russia, China cannot risk atunenda Cuba, atunenda. Hata hizo
remember the Cold War,
hata hizo nchi zitaka because the moment utona China, Russia zinaingia, they know US has a capability kuwapoteza. US can really mess them up. Waliona vile Venezuela ilifanywa. You can imagine a sitting president anakuja anachukua tu helicopter na the military accepts because they have no otherwise. They had to give him up. Unaona? So at the end of the day, mimi voice of reason would be they know their place. And they know that the truth kwamba it will be very costly, number one. And then there are certain wars that are very unnecessary. To me, I believe kwamba nuclear war will destroy the whole world.
Absolutely.
So to me, US in as much as is fighting and Iran on a boast, but the reality is they cannot reach to a point where nuclear weapons inaanza kuanichiwa because now no dunia ita survive. Now watu in as much they fight because they would also want to enjoy that they have won the war and enjoy those benefits. So you can imagine they are not there even to enjoy the war. They enjoy the benefits of the war.
There's no bragging rights that
US ilichapa Nagasaki na Hiroshima. Second World War ikatulia. For I don't know 50, 60, 70, I don't know how many years wamekuwa enjoy that privilege of being the superpower.
Yes, who was the only ones who are
that hao walinyamazisha Second World War within a minute. So you can imagine when nuclear war ikianza, who will be there to brag about it? Sisi ndio tumesurvive. The whole world will be destroyed. So to me, voice of reason will be number one for the BRICS. They know their place. They know that it is very expensive for them, and then at some point, would not allow them to indulge in certain kind of wars. But me, Brazil, with the economical issues that are passing in Brazil, how is the risk going to go world war? Okay, Russia, Russia has proved because Russia is a very unique country. You nae, to be sincere, wanaweza survive. But also for them, they wouldn't want to enter into a war that is very unnecessary to them unless wamechokozwa. India hata hawezi risk. China, okay. South Africa, hata hiyo tupa tukanda. So to me, none of them would really wish to fight this war.
So we can say comfortably that we only have one superpower, and that one superpower is the United States of America.
Mimi ndasema hivi, we do not have one superpower. We only have one, among the many superpowers, we only have one that you're very stubborn. We only have one.
Okay. We
have one superpower that is very stubborn. One, because I don't believe that US is only the superpower. US would want to trade with so many other countries. They would want their dollar to be used in so many other countries. So to me, even US needs other countries so that their dollar can survive. It's only that US has proved to be a bull. But I would say that, okay, economically, US, somewhere is a superpower. Economically, is a superpower. So it's just a bully. As per now, we would accept it as it is. But also, US inajua its limits. Kuna place yezi enda, kuna boundary yezi tuka. Kuna boundary yenye yezi tuka. There's a boundary that it can't pass. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So does it mean that then they are the ones actually who are controlling the world today? Maybe we can put it that way. I
agree. 70% of world economy is being controlled by the dollar. And the dollar is being produced by US. So to some extent, wanna control the world. Because hata nikuulize swali moja, ni nchi gani ya Afrika inaweza ishi bila US?
None.
In as much as Traore ameboast pale. Traore is ameendia Russia.
He's also a beneficiary of the US.
Bado to West. Okay, Traore is not a beneficiary of the US, but kuna some extent haizi risk. Because let me not lie to you. Russia means I've never seen Russia supporting any country ati ikasaidia kuweka a certain
infrastructures in place,
kuweka structure, because mimi I've never seen Russia building an infrastructure in any country. I've never. They will only help you with weapons. But away from weapons, you know, US literally has built countries. US has built South Korea. US has built Singapore. US has built, you'll see the likes of Taiwan. They have invested. US somehow to some extent has also been involved in helping nchi kama Israel to remain stable in the world economy. Even countries like Dubai, Saudi Arabia, some of these Middle East countries, ni sababu ya trading ya US. The trade of US between China has actually helped improve China to where it is. So US, to some extent, building structures, it has really, in terms of building structures in a country, it has really helped. But maybe let me ask you, hizi nchi zingine zinazoitwa communist, Russia, China, where have they ever helped? Wapi? So you can't risk, because hata mimi sahi ati unataka kuingia upande ya China, China will only give you weapons. But in terms of installing a leader and building infrastructure and leadership in a institution in a country, manami usijidanganye. US is the only country that will do that. And to me, I'll prefer we play safe, and I will actually accept that to some extent, US controls 70% of the world economies. Because you can get the whole of Africa.
On the trade routes.
Toka Africa and Europe. And to Europe. Most of these European countries, they go intertwined with the economy of US. In as much as they have their own currency, at the pound, whichever. But you'll see they are intertwined na US to some extent. And even in the continent of America, I don't think there is any country would risk to remove itself or actually detach itself from the economy of America. So America as a whole, Africa as a whole, Europe as a whole, Middle East to some extent 50%, Asia, somehow to some extent they have done trade. So nearly 70%. So I accept. I accept. They control.
They are controlling the world. So as we are winding down, there's a topic that I just want you to touch on. Senegal team has been stripped of their title as the winners of that tournament. What do you think? Is it a racism against the black skin, or what exactly is happening there?
Unajua by the way, acha sikudanganya. And that's why I've been nimekuwa ni condemn not even CAF, Africa as a whole. We always elevate mediocrity. Have you ever heard in European World Cup at the continental World Cup ya Europe at another country has won, and after the tournament inakuwa ripped off? Even American Cup,
never.
You never see. But in Africa you'll see mediocrity. In preparation, in handling, and even aftermath you'll see mediocrity. So to me this is a total, I will not even condemn CAF, I'll condemn African leadership in total. To elevate mediocrity, that even at a point where something that is very beautiful, something that is very, do you know football in Africa is very organic. Watu wako na natural talents. We do not have beautiful stadiums, but look at the Africans that are playing in Europe. Africa wanacheza in Manchester, wanacheza in the Premier League, wanacheza in those European leagues. Utapata for them is purely out of passion. Ni talent yenyewe.
Really?
It is not because that you can Europe that
not because of training.
Because if you look at Europe, environment in our favor. So hata kama mtu hapo you learn on, you can learn they need the talent, they need the skill along the way. Because the infrastructure favors you. So wewe unaenda unapata hata pitch yenye iko shule ya manyasi iko na air condition in Europe, but in Africa utapata actually hata ni mchanga, hauna kiatu, kocha hauna, but because unatumia tu and because unaweza access tu mtandao, unaangalia unaenda una train. Sasa mimi let me ask you a question. When the most beautiful sport yenye si upenda ikianza kuwa mismanaged, what do you expect? So to me, I will not condemn CAF, I'll condemn Africa as a whole, and all African leaders wakitoka condemn hiyo ujinga. Wasema by the way, mnaibisha a continent. But because the Africans themselves wenyewe leaders we have are mediocres, they cannot even address it. And to me, at the end of the day, I'll say shame on you on CAF. This is water under the bus. Wangeacha Senegal will enjoy. Then another tournament will come because African Cup of Nations are after every 2 good years. So after every 2 good years, go have the tournament. But now, one umesha rip off. Sasa hata hiyo pride. So what is the need of you munafightia kuingia African Cup of Nations? A team in a fight. And Senegal actually deserves it because we have seen their toil.
They deserve it.
But now, because of whatever influence, at mna deprive mnapeana huko. So the next tournament yenye takuja, do you think these other teams watafightia kwa number 1 if they don't eventually, because there's a favorable team, watakuwa deprived of the cup? You see how mediocre and how Kenyan leaders wa Africa wanaipisha continent. So until we have the right leadership, just one, I pray that kina Sankaras watatoka wengi, not even Sankaras, huyu Traore watatokea wengi in Africa.
To overthrow governments.
Not only overthrowing, and I always say this, you don't need to overthrow a government to change a nation. But you need a very strong ideology to capture the government.
Yeah.
A very strong ideology. Raila had a very strong ideology. The only problem is that I also believe to some extent, and may his soul rest in peace, to some extent Raila also was never serious on capturing power. To me, I'll say it confidently kwa unanisikiza. To some extent Raila was never serious on capturing power. Because kuna laps zingine zenye unaangalia kwa campaign team yake na siku ya election unaona by the Raila was never serious. You cannot tell me, to be sincere, that a week to election, you're being supported by a sitting government, a sitting president, election. A week before election, there is a warning with a foreign country towards its citizen in the same country, in a region that the presidential candidate is being supported by an incumbent. At Utokeni area, post-election itatokea, and Raila did not see it. Raila had intelligence about corruption. He had intelligence about assassination. He had intelligence about everything. But your intelligence ilimpita.
Alipata hiyo.
Which means he was never serious.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that? ODM should explain
to us. Or he just never wanted it. Probably.
Thank you. So he was never serious or he never wanted it. So and by there I admire the way he was able to maintain his people for over 20 good years kuuzianga tu hope.
Tutachukua hii.
Na wanaweka mpaka saa hii
bullet ya mwisho hii.
Hata ule mwenye kutoka hapa ungeni hata tupelekane. Nikamwambia by there. Baada kuna hiyo hope, but Raila alikuacha wapi? Raila aliwacha wapi? Was he ever serious in capturing power? Raila is not a good example when it comes to benchmarking on how to win an election. He's a very good role model or a good politician when it comes to how you run an opposition, how you become charismatic with people, how to maintain the people believing in you. But when it comes to winning an election, he's not the right example. Because to some extent I believe yeye mwenyewe alikuwa anajisabotage asichukue election. So to me hapo kidogo so I pray that we'll have the right leaders in Africa. People who will kina Traore, people who will have strong ideologies, that they will organize economical coup. I used this term before and I'll use it again. Organize economical coup. People will capture power and change the economical conditions of Africans and their people at large. Mtu mwenye atachikapcha Kenya na make sure kwamba Wakenya wanaishi vizuri. That is the kind of strong ideology I want. And such kind of people will have them, Africa will change. And therefore mediocrity will stop. But as long as we have mediocres capturing power, ujinga kama hizo za CAF zitaendelea.
What do you think is the solution?
The solution is just simple, consistency. To me, I always say kwamba with persistence, let me not lie to you. You see, those people who fought for us to get independence, they saw a need for change, and they fought for it, and they had the spirit for it. Right now, we're not fighting for independence. Actually, we are fighting for economical independence. Not because we're being controlled by foreigners, but because we are being controlled by people who are greedy. Those who have captured power in Africa are full of greed. They are trying to manipulate the citizens so that they can be slaves of their greed. So at the end of the day, the independence we need is economical independence. We need economical autonomy so that Kenyans, Africans, actually let me speak about Kenya. Kenyans can actually have a chance where for those who are children who are going to school can learn at peace. They can have actually a very comfortable education that will enable them to become innovative for their future life. That is number one. Number two, a very good healthcare, good roads, enough security. We don't need to walk at Unaogopa goons. Every time to the election, goons will be there. We need an environment that is conducive for us to actually even be human beings. Unaona, tusisurvive vile wala wanasema tuko kadi, tusisurvive. We don't need to survive. We need to enjoy life. And therefore, to me, it comes with the wrong decisions and wrong policies that are being placed with greedy people who are in power. And therefore, at the end of the day, the solution is this. For us, we should have the spirit, we should be persistent, we should be consistent. And then again, one thing I've learned that is maybe not available per se, and not even that obvious, ni a lot of people in grassroots, especially kwa hii politics ya Kenya inakuja next year, people do not have the right information. So civic education should be there more and more and more to sensitize. And that's why people like us at Bunge la Mwananchi, we normally do consistent civic education to ensure that Wakenya wamekuwa sensitized of how bad leadership should look like. Just because someone did a wrong thing before, and you believe that because of that wrong thing that he did before, it should be payback time, so that sasa sisi tumepata tuwaumize. At the end of the day, we are losing all of us. We are losing all of us. So at the end of the day, as Kenyans, let us, for the few, tuache kuwa very myopic, tuache kuwa very short-sighted in view, and we should look beyond. We should create an environment that will actually affect generations to generations positively. The same way those who fought for independence have actually gave us a chance to live bila kuona mzungu. The only mzungu tunaona sahi akona rangi nyeusi, but at least wamepatia chance sahi tunaweza tembea freely. Unaona? So at the end of the day, even as for those who are sisi wenye tuko kwa this generation, the solution should be, let us be persistent and consistent and ensure that next year we'll have done enough civic education so that a majority, if not all, a majority, nearly 70% of Kenyans will vote for the right person. Not only at the presidential level, but from the MCA, MP, Senate, women rep, Senate, and governor. All of them will vote for the right people. Because let me not lie to you, if we have the right people in parliament, making the right policy, hata president awe ng'ombe, itakuwa ngumu control parliament.
Sure.
If we have the right people in Senate, governors wataogopa kuiba resources za devolution. If we hata MCAs, if you have the right people as the MCAs, governors bado wataogopa because they will know our MCAs wataki mchezo. Kazi itaenda chini. Even the women rep. Maybe I don't understand. We have a position that is not even
what do they do?
I don't understand. You sleep with you. Mimi niulize Karinyama anafanya nini? Esther Pacettes anafanya nini?
I'm surprised. I don't know.
Ni sleep with you. And you sleep unaweza by the wewe tafuteni wimbo nini ya celebrity mkwe ma celebrity. But parliament is not for content creation. Unaona parliament, they talk very interesting videos at parliament instead of serving Kenyans and making policies. Such kind of mediocrity, when we provide civic education, so Kenya watenda kwa balance and they vote for both people. And this one I'll say confidently, 2027, the position of women rep, tupatie Crystal Asije. That lady is very admirable.
Yeah.
And she might be a person of disability because of her eyes.
But her eyes, she's very bright.
She has very good eyes.
A very nice intellectual mind.
Ni mtu mwenye akiongea I really admire. Mimi I really admire Crystal Asije. Shikeni yeye pali huko, tumpatie women rep Nairobi. Hiyo hivi ndogondogo akina ma socialite akina Pasaris. We are tired of that kind of, so that he can set a standard for people, the position of women rep to have the right progressive minds.
Why must an MP be nominated for position?
That is the question. Why would we have over-representation?
Okay, for persons living with disability, we can understand that. But why must we have somebody nominated for a position, like even a women rep is?
You see, even the persons of disability can be protected by policies. You see, akili ya Mwafrika ni ku-invest leadership on an individual. Europe, they don't invest leadership on an individual. They invest leadership on institutions and systems. So that even if that individual exits, the systems
remain.
They remain.
Yeah.
America, however, how much Trump is very useless to them. Somehow, some way, the system has capped Trump to go to a certain extent. Right now, kuna allegation kwamba parliament ya America ina contemplate to impeach Trump because of the decisions ame make kuingia kwa hii vita ya Iran. They are actually contemplating to impeach him. Wewe Kenya ushaisikia contemplation ya kuimpeach Kasongo?
and think
it will never happen. But utasikia ma MCA wana impeach governor at sababu governor hako wapatia tokens. Sasa unaona you are already a voted an elected leader. You have a salary, you have a budget. Bado unafikiria mindset ya tokenism. Sasa kama wewe ni leader ulichaguliwa na bado unafikiria akili ya tokenism. How much a mere citizen? You see how our culture is very bad. And that's why I'm saying let us invest on institutions and systems so that even if leaders move away, then those systems will keep our country. Yeah. And that's why in 2027, we vote for leaders who will provide a very good system to our country. And that is the solution. The solution is ni kufagia wote. Kuanzia MCA mpaka Kasongo juu. We bring a new face, people who are progressive thinkers that can add value. And hao wenye wanaingia they need also to know. Wakicheza watatolewa.
We really thank you for your time today, and I believe that it's a great conversation that we've had. Guys, we continue to bring you the best debaters, and we bring you the best analysts, giving you these contents consistently and with a lot of excellence. We have put a lot of thought into making these products admirable and desirable the way you see them. We just wish that you continue to support us as well through this this service. If there is an organization that can come and advertise with us as well, maybe some point, we'll also appreciate actually an okay, you can put it under give back. You just decide to give back to the society. Yeah. So we thank you so much. It has been a great moment. It has been a great discussion, and kindly allow me to see you in the next one.